one of our favorite guys. Nate Eaton covered Lori Vallow's trial, covered Chad Daybell's trial, and I was actually really glad to see him covering Kouri Richins' trial. So he was live tweeting from the courtroom, and we did watch another juror interview that he did with juror number 3. And so I really enjoyed it. It's quite insightful to hear what stuck with the jury or what could have like went over the juror's mind a little bit. I'm oh, Remy says hi. I'm interested to see what this juror is going to have to say about Robert Crozier, whether or not they thought Robert Crozier was, like some poor guy that was like, into drugs and then like came to testify, because I felt like there was a lot of background knowledge that we know about Rob Crozier. And I think with juror number 3, she was just like, yeah, she kind of like lumped him together with Carmen Lober. I was like, no, I think Rob Crozier is like completely different than Carmen Lober. But anyways, I do want to hear his thoughts on the state, the defense, on the evidence, some of the witnesses that testified. And then also, did he also feel like Kouri Richins was hard to read, as she was sitting there in the courtroom? So I have not seen this yet, but I did scrub through the transcript to see, a preview of like some of the things he might say. But that's pretty much it. So I want to watch this with you guys, and I was going to stream the Afro Man trial today, and I was like, oh, well, this popped up, so I definitely want to check it out. This was posted 21 hours ago. So this is a react video. We are going to be pausing a lot. So if you guys want to watch the actual video, I think I should have it linked below, or actually, you know what? I might have forgotten to link it below. But I mean, the title's right there. You could see East Idaho News posted this. So it's good to see you guys. I hope you guys are doing well. Yes, good morning. Happy Saturday. Hello, hello. Yesterday, we did post a video of our react to the Justin Timberlake body cam footage. I did that in the live stream with you guys. So we did chop it up a little bit, and that's been posted. And then, if you guys are not familiar with the Kouri Richins case, I mean, we've been covering it. We've been doing the live streams for the past like 3 weeks. And then we do have recap videos for you guys to watch. If you guys are like, well, Corgi, 8-hour days, for 3 weeks in a row, that's a little too much, Corgi. Okay, I don't want to spend that much time with you. So we do have recap videos, and then you can spend maybe 6 hours with me instead. Good morning. Hi, Go Lucky. Oh, you're working today? Well, I hope you have a wonderful work day. Sometimes working on Saturdays is fun. Alrighty. And you get the weekday off, because, if you have the weekdays off, most people don't, and you can do your errands and all that stuff when it's a little bit more quieter. Alrighty, y'all. So we're just gonna jump right into it, and let's see. What did it say? Oh, okay. All right. So then we have juror number 4, and I'm so glad that Nate was able to get another juror to interview. It'd be interesting if Nate ever interviews Kouri. Not because I want to hear Kouri's side, not because I give a shit about, what her truth is. It's just more like I just feel like Kouri will just continue lying. And I think it'd be really entertaining to watch that. It's kind of like when we watched the Lori Vallow trial. No, not the Lori Vallow trial, the Lori Vallow interview. That was just, I don't know, it was just really unhinged. But I think Kouri would be kind of an interesting person if Nate could ever get an interview with her. Alrighty, let's just jump right into it. I am going to speed up just a tiny bit. And let me see how the audio... I'm probably just going to boost just a little bit. I feel like usually audio needs a tiny bit of a boost.
Tony, it's so good to see you. I just want to start, I guess, from the beginning. Do you remember the day that you got your jury summons?
I don't remember what day it was. I mean, I remember getting it. It wasn't a case that I was...
Let me... Hold on a second. I like having the transcript up. That way, in case we can, if we need to hop around a little bit, we can do that.
Overly familiar with. My wife had talked about it. I'd heard her talking about it a little bit just because it was local. But it wasn't talking to me. It was obviously talking to others that were in the vicinity. So I actually heard it kind of secondhand that way.
But you hadn't been following it, obviously, and didn't know. Did you know how big of a deal it was?
Now, remember the other juror that interviewed, she was like, yeah, like I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I got like 50 acres of land, and it's a small town, and I didn't know anything about this case. I haven't heard anything about it. And I think same thing with her husband as well. Like they have not heard about Kouri Richins at all. It seems like she was like very, very isolated.
No, I'm not a big social media follower, and I don't really. I mean, the only really local news that I watch is the weather. So it didn't seem like it was that big of a case to me. I mean, even through the trial, to be honest, I continued on my normal path of the shows I watch, the news I watch, and it never came up on any of my feeds or anything like that.
Had you served on a jury before, Tony?
I hadn't served on a jury. I'd been called for a case once here in Salt Lake City, but wasn't selected.
Oh, interesting. Same thing with the other juror. She's also never been on jury duty before.
Okay. So what did you think when you actually got the notice that you were going to be on the jury?
Kind of, I mean, mixed feelings. I mean, it was 5 weeks initially at the start. It was like, well, it's going to be a long jury.
Yeah.
But I feel I mean, that's my responsibility as a citizen, prior military. So felt the compunction to serve didn't bother me. So it was fine. I was neither excited nor trying to get out of it.
Do you remember, Tony, some of the questions you were asked by the prosecution and the defense during jury selection?
On the form, or when they did their
when they actually did the interviews?
The only
Yeah, and the reason why we're all asking is because I don't think media was allowed in. I know for sure the judge denied the live streaming or like any footage of the jury selection, but I don't think media was allowed in either during that process. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The only question really that they had for me is what had to do with my response to the prosecution, and there was a sliding scale that they wanted you to fill out, and mine was slightly negative, and they were asking me about that, and it was under the cross or under questioning. I was like, well, the only reason I said it that way is because I'm assuming if I'm being prosecuted, I'm going to have a feeling against the prosecution if I'm the one being prosecuted. So that was really their only question. I mean, when they clarified it, it was just in general. I'm like, no, I'm pretty neutral that way then.
I see. So you get the notice that you're going to be on the jury, and then did you have to, coordinate with your job to take time off, or were they cool with it?
Hi, Ari. How are you doing today? How's it going? Hello, hello. Let me forward through this part a little bit. I just want to get to the part where, actually it gets to it pretty quickly. So he's going to ask about the thoughts about Kouri and writing the children's book.
Fortunately, I'm self-employed.
Okay.
So for me, it didn't impact me that much. I mean, I have a part-time job, and they were pretty accommodating.
But your self-employed job, your boss was okay with it, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember going in the first day and seeing Kouri Richins for the first time? And what were your thoughts? You knew it was a murder case, right? Like they told you during jury selection?
Correct. I did know it was a murder case. I mean, that much I had known. I had known that there was the accusation was it was poisoning. I knew that she had written a child's book or a storybook that was for children.
Okay.
At the time, I actually didn't know how that actually pertained to the case. I didn't know if it was exactly. And again, because I hadn't followed it, didn't really care at the time. So when I got into trial, I guess it brought it home to reality. I mean, because you put a face to the name and the situation. My first experience or my first reaction to seeing Kouri Richins was my interpretation of it is that she looked either scared or nervous. I mean,
really, I feel like I didn't get that feeling at all when we day 1, day 2, day 3. I feel like she kind of just sat there. I don't know. I didn't. Maybe like it's very different when you see someone in person. But that type of body language just didn't really translate to that on the cameras. But I mean, again, like there were times where we didn't really get to see much of Kouri. The camera only panned to her like once in a while. So I feel like she kind of just sat there like stone face. And the only time when she was like emotive was when there was testimony that she obviously did not like listening to. Hi, Ari. Hi, Jillian. Hi, Wade. How are you doing today? How's it going?
She looked uncomfortable. I mean, she was throughout the trial. She was fairly stone-faced.
Yeah.
Didn't react a lot to a lot of things. My initial, I mean, when you first get in there, you're trying to read the room because again, first time that you're doing it. So you read the room, you read the people, the prosecution, the defense, and I looked at the defendant, and I didn't get a big read on her. I looked, or I did at least. I looked from time to time to see how they reacted. Didn't really react much. So after a while, I stopped looking around at that and just paid more attention to the case. I mean, I know, and I won't say I don't want to make that sound like I wasn't listening before. It was just in between witnesses or when there was plenty of motions that they had through the trial. So in that time, I would take a look, try to get a grasp of the surroundings.
Yeah, he probably looked at Kouri a few times and was like, okay, well, I'm not really getting much from her, so whatever, fuck it. Let's pay attention to other things. You thought Kouri looked cold and calculating. Hey, Michael, how are you doing today? How's it going? Hello, hello.
You know that
I'm actually quite surprised. So if you guys got to see some footage of Kouri in the bail hearing, she was putting on, like, I don't know, it was a show or what, but like, you know, she was like trembling a little bit. And there was time when she was like, you know, crying, you know, whether or not you thought it was authentic, but she was a lot more reactive then. I'm actually really surprised that she didn't decide to put on a show in front of the jury. Maybe she got some feedback that it didn't look credible or it looked very inauthentic maybe. And so she's like, okay, well, I'll just not do that. And, you know, I guess 4 years has passed. You know, maybe the jury would think that I've already had it all processed and, you know, I'm not as sad as how I initially was when I first found Eric dead. But yeah, I was really surprised by that because I feel like, you know, when we watch trials, you know, we had like the Donald Adelsons, we had like, you know, people who like pretend like they actually cared about the victim. And when there was a 911 call or there's body cam footage or when the medical examiner would testify, they would, you know, pretend to like shake or like cry or be like really upset and stuff like that.
a trial was being televised around the world that, you know, millions of people potentially were watching?
I knew it was being televised. Again, I didn't probably know the scope of it. I probably didn't even know the scope of it until after the trial was over. That as many people were interested in it, it seemed like a local case to me initially.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I included that in my recent video of like things that didn't make it into the trial, but there was a part where in the bail hearing where I think she's like crying and then I don't know, her defense attorney like kind of just like looks over at Kouri, was like, and it's like, oh, here's a tissue. I don't know, like the interaction was kind of awkward. So there was someone, I forgot who it was, but someone in the chat was like, girl, if you're gonna pretend to cry, at least like grab a tissue or something. I don't know, it was like so funny.
So tell us about that first kind of meeting as jurors, because you're told to come to the courthouse, arrive at like 8 o'clock?
Correct. Yeah, we got there early. So it was interesting. I mean, it was the bailiffs were very, very good the whole way through. They were very, very protective of us. I mean, again, I think you know that there was an initial issue or that one of the jurors had seen a drone. There was a little bit of a investigation to make sure it was their drone that she saw.
Yeah, so the other juror was like, yeah, you know, we were reporting to jury duty and then like we would notice this drone was following us. Like, what the fuck is this drone? Apparently there was someone in the sheriff's office that was using drones to make sure that, you know, I guess people weren't following around the jury or something like that, which is really interesting. I'm like, oh, okay. I really like that they're technologically, you know, in tuned. That's cool. But if I was a jury too, and like, why didn't you guys give me a heads up? You know, because if you're walking around, you're like, oh, why is there a fucking drone here? Is no one going to tell me what this is?
But it was pretty straightforward. We would get there early. Again, didn't know any of the jurors prior. Was surprised in the long run as to how well we got along. Everybody was there for the right reasons, it seemed. And all through the trial, I don't think we had any controversy whatsoever with the jurors. And so it was, from that side, it was pleasant because it was nice to be able to get along with the jurors.
Yeah,
you know that we were there for something serious. So
yeah, absolutely. If you can get 12 people to, you know, sit in a room and not talk about the one thing that everyone wants to talk about, that's pretty impressive if you can all get along. So opening statements happen. You've got the prosecution and the defense. When you kind of get a scope as to what you're going to be hearing, what were your thoughts when, you know, Brad Bloodworth laid it all out?
Oh gosh, he did such a good job. Such a good job. Hi, Rain. Happy Saturday. Yes, happy Saturday, y'all. Hello, hello.
But the opening again, so it's kind of like a drinking from a water or a water hose. I mean, because so initially, I mean, you're getting a lot of information, and between trying to write everything down, we did take copious notes. So writing everything down, listening to the juries. Like I said before, initially you try to get some reads on some people to see how they react to some of the comments or some of the accusations. Didn't seem to get much of that, but the initial opening statements basically gave us a purview of what we were going to hear. Some of the people that you thought were going to be a priority or important during the case. I'm trying to think.
I kind of want to go back and re-listen to the defense's opening statement. I could have felt like they laid down some expectations and ended up not really following through with it. But that's just like a feeling that I have. I haven't gone back and re-listened to it yet because honestly, I felt like when they rested their case, even after like they're done with cross-examination, I felt like there was like a giant hole that was missing. Like, oh, I feel like I was expecting so much more, but again, it was just a feeling. I could be completely wrong about that.
Trying to think of anything that stood out. We did watch the 911 call. Tough to watch a little bit.
Oh, Ari, I feel the same way. I was like, when we're after the Murdoch juror and all the courthouse Becky and all that drama, I'm like, oh gosh, like maybe people should just like not give interviews. But actually, I've been so surprised at how many good jurors we end up getting. The people that have came out and done their interviews, like, yeah, I feel like, oh wow, like I'm really surprised that there are a lot, like they follow the rules. They seem like really smart people, and when they do these interviews, I mean, it's quite insightful. But yeah, that's a gut feeling that I used to have back then. I'm sure like maybe one day we'll come across a juror where I'm like, ooh, should they really be saying that? Like, oh, okay, that's not good. That might open the doors for appeals or something like that. But yeah, I had I had the same sentiment as you before. But as we're getting more and more jurors speaking out, I'm actually quite surprised at how dedicated they are, which is really good.
Did watch the reactions to both some of the people in the pool and the defendants when that was happening, but it seemed like it was going to be a straightforward case, at least from Bloodworth's standpoint. It seems like they had a lot of information. We took the notes that he gave on some of it. Again, this was his opinion during opening, so didn't put a ton of weight into it. Waited for the witnesses to come forth. Same thing on the defense side. The defense side, it looked like it was initially going to be a reasonable doubt case, unless they brought something forward. I mean, they didn't tip their hand anything more than that initially in the case. So that's kind of what we were expecting.
Yeah, Kathy Nestor made the point that with the image of the old woman and the young woman, and I think she said you could look at it like a witch or a widow. Did that?
I wonder how many people looked at it like a witch.
Resonate with you?
Not really.
No.
I mean, I understood what her point was, but it didn't have any bearing on the case at the time. So
right. The 911 call, you mentioned it. Not only, you hear the 911 call, and then in the closing, the prosecutor put up a timer from the time the dispatcher told Kouri to start CPR until she actually apparently did it.
Correct.
Did that resonate? That timer?
Yeah, I would say that the Bloodworth's closing was actually pretty good. It did tie a lot of pieces together. It gave a lot of information or tied information that was sown throughout the case that sometimes through the case you were kind of wondering, okay, where is this going and what's the purpose of these witnesses? But in the end, the amount of time that it took Kouri to actually interact with Eric at the time, that seemed a lot. I mean, my sense is that if that had been me, what would I have done? Mm-hmm. And I know it's hard to put yourself in those situations or react that way. But if my spouse had been the one that I had found unreactive, not breathing or anything like that, I think that as a spouse, you would move heaven and earth to try to get them breathing. I mean, your first focus would be try to get them breathing.
Yes. And then Kouri was just like taking her time and she was giving all these excuses. I think a lot of us felt the same way. And even though, let's say she emotionally disconnected from Eric because she was having an affair, maybe she didn't really care about him anymore, she didn't love him anymore. Even so, though, I felt like if there was a stranger that collapsed in front of you, you'd probably be like, oh my fucking God, like, what am I going to do? Like, how do I get this person to, like to breathe and stuff like that? Like you would just start panicking and try to help them out. Right. And to see Kouri react that way, and it's her spouse and the father of her 3 children, I was like, oh, well, we really taking our time, aren't we? And all the excuses that she's making. And these people, same thing. I always go back to Brendan Banfield. It's like when they're on these 911 calls, they're so laser focused on just having their story out there, their narrative. Like, oh, I came here. I don't know what was happening. My wife was getting attacked. And then, yeah, I killed a guy, you know, like they're like laying out their timeline just so it's like set in like a 911 call somewhere. And I think that's what Kouri was doing, you know, like Brad Bloodworth did a really good job at pointing out that Kouri really made sure to first distance herself from the scene. So when she was talking to Eric's father, Eric's sister, she would distance herself like, oh, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. And same thing with the 911 call, right? I wasn't there. I was with my kids. I don't know what happened. So she was so focused on, you know, basically setting her alibi.
Or try to get them reacting and that kind of stuff. And it seemed, especially by the time that we got to closing, I mean, I'd already heard all the evidence that was going to be presented. It seemed she was very reluctant to initially start it, and her interest was elsewhere.
Yeah. Let's talk about the body cam footage from.
Oh my gosh, the body cam footage was like, the body cam footage was pretty crazy too. Oh man. So I've never seen the body cam footage before trial, but I remember reading the transcripts and oh my God, is it just a world of a difference? Like reading the transcripts versus like actually seeing people's reaction. So different.
From the night that the police went to the home. What were your thoughts when you saw Kouri reacting the way she did?
Again, it seemed odd. And initially, again, that's one of the first things that we saw was the body cam footage. So it was a little bit. You didn't want to react too much to it because again, I don't know how I would react in that situation. I have to say it did seem odd. There were things that she said a number of times where she said she didn't want to call Eric's father. There was one other thing that she said she didn't want to do that seemed odd at the time.
Oh, I think she didn't want to tell her kids. Either she didn't want to tell her kids. I remember the Eric's father thing. Like she was like, I don't know what to tell him or something like that. But I think it was her not wanting to tell her kids.
And again, covering her face the whole time. Again, while it seemed odd, I didn't jump to a conclusion with that just because I don't know how I would react.
Yeah.
Having watched it the second time meant more during the closing than it did the first time. So the first time, again, you're still trying to put the players in place. You're trying to see who's all there. We watched as in detail as much as we could. But again, you're still getting a feel for the people at the time and the situation and the experience or the what happened.
One of the things that stuck out to many people was the comparison between Kouri's reaction and Kouri Richins' reaction in that video.
For sure. Katie's felt so raw and real. Kouri's was like, someone in the chat was like, I think in the body cam footage, they felt like because Katie's reaction was so like she was very upset. And it seemed like Kouri saw that and she's like, oh shit, I need to up I need to up it up a little bit because my reaction is not as bad as Katie's, you know, like I need to play it up a little bit more. And I thought it was really funny. I think it was the part where Katie like fell and collapsed or something. And I think Kouri was trying to like help her up, but then she saw how Katie was just like completely in distress, you know? And Kouri was like, oh shit, damn it. Katie's like, you know, she's like getting one up on me. Now I got to make sure I react just as hard.
And Katie, you heard from her. She testified, and Eric's dad. What was it like having them right there on the stand recounting the horrors of that night?
So sad.
Well, you did feel for him. I mean, either way, whether Kouri would have been found guilty or not, they still lost a son. I mean, so either way, you could, with especially Katie on the stand, she seemed upset. I mean, it was. I mean, even though 4 years had passed, again, same thing. If that happened to you, what would you do? Was my first thought. She seemed to me believable. Again, I think she obviously had a grudge against Kouri, but
okay.
Her perception at the time was there was suspicion there, if not felt like she was guilty already at the time. This is from Katie's perspective I'm talking.
Yeah, and I wonder if the juror caught on to this because through the cross-examinations and the style of questioning, the defense was really trying to set this narrative that Kouri was set up by Eric's family. You know, they hired this PI, they planted this evidence, and that even Eric's business partner was in on it. You know, he had access to the truck and he probably grabbed the fentanyl that was in the allergy pill bottle and discarded it. You know, it was like all these people were just in on it just to set up Kouri. So I actually wonder if they really caught on to that, because he did say that, like, oh, you know, it seems like Katie was like, you know, had a grudge or was suspicious of her. But I wonder if they were able to, you know, pick up the little tidbits that the defense team was leaving. I mean, to me, it seemed really obvious, but that's because I had so much knowledge about the trial beforehand. So I don't know if I would pick that up as I was watching the trial, as it was, like, you know, unfolding.
So I anticipated or expected her to act some of the way. I think she did pretty well. I did feel for her. It was a sad situation, to be honest.
Yeah. Another witness that was memorable was Carmen Lober. Tell me your thoughts about her testimony. And do you believe her? Did you believe her?
Hey, Wadi says body cam video was disturbing. A bad actress, the whining. Yeah, she was attempting to play a role. Yeah, it's like she was trying really hard to be upset and sad, but like it really just came off as whining. Yeah. I would go buy a mansion on the very next day for sure. I mean, Kouri was ambitious, okay? She was in business mode, right? She was already telling people how she was going to run Eric's business, how she was going to close on the Midway mansion, all this crazy stuff, how she was going to sell the house, you know, that Eric had just died in. But ambitious.
I believe she was trying to tell the truth for the most part.
Yeah.
I knew that
Okay.
Carmen Lober was a drug user, had her run-ins with the law. So she seemed like she was trying to tell the truth most of the time. I took that into account. By the time that she was on there, we knew that this digital forensic was going to be introduced, and so I didn't put a lot of weight into her testimony as to exactly, because again, I know there was an initial.
Oh, did the digital forensic guy, Coach Demos, is that his last name? I think. Did he testify after Carmen? I actually don't remember. I think it's good though. I think it's good for them to listen to Carmen and then be like, okay, well, you know, she seems truthful, but I'm going to have to see, because you want corroborating evidence to really back it up. And I think a lot of the times, you know, when you're a juror, you like digital evidence. You like the cell phones, you know, you like the data, the location, the car data, the video cameras, audio, and all that stuff. So I think that those type of evidence goes a long way with the jury. Like if you just had someone who just testified up there and then had nothing to back it up, like no corroborating digital evidence, it's just like, like, you know, can I really trust them? I still want to know more about. I know I don't know anything about that. I could probably do some digging about that. That was actually something that I completely forgot about. So Tinfoil says, I still want to know more about the timeline on the children's life insurance. Yeah. I didn't even, well, actually, no, I do know, because we've heard of other cases where people do take out a life insurance policy on their kids, on their spouse, and then they start murdering. But I think that's so wild to me. Why does that even exist? Taking life insurance policies on your kids. Spouse, I can understand, because say you have a spouse, you know, that contributes like, you know, 50% or whatever percent of the income to your household, and you have like a family together. And if something did happen to them, then it makes sense that you just want to make sure that you're, you know, financially secured, at least for a little bit, right? But taking life, like, I don't know, life insurance policies on your children, I need to look into that. Unless they're like child actors or something, I don't know. But yeah, I do wonder that. But I think that gets into like really dark territory of whether or not could Kouri have been a potential Lori Vallow. I don't know. I feel like murdering your husband is one thing, but when you're in the territory of like murdering your kids too, that's just like a whole different type of evil. But yeah, I don't know. That is very interesting though, because it seems like Eric's family had concerns about that.
Countess, she thought that she had met with Kouri 4 times, and the prosecution, or excuse me, the defense said it was 3 times. Well, we knew that the digital evidence was eventually going to sort that out, right. And so that discrepancy didn't bother me initially. I mean, it had been 4 years ago. She had shown that her recollection was iffy and suspect. So I didn't put a lot of weight into her exact things that she was saying. I more so, what I took from her testimony is, one, she had been approached by from Kouri to get some drugs, and And initially, I believe that the drugs that they wanted was oxycodone or hydrocodone, I think it was. So the initial attempt to try to get her to buy drugs for her, and again, from Kouri's standpoint, it was for a client that had back pain.
Maybe well, in her financial fraud trial. No, the financial fraud trial only focuses on the bad checks that she was writing, and she was writing a bunch of bad checks, bouncing them, doing a bunch of crazy shit to try to like get funds from like one account to another, even though the originating account didn't have any fucking funds to begin with. But no, it's not going to get into that. I think it might get into that in the civil lawsuit. So there's a lawsuit happening right now between Kouri. She's like suing like Eric's family. She's suing, you know, the trust and all that stuff. I don't know if they're probably going to sue her too. Like there's probably like back and forth in that. I feel like it's probably in like the civil stuff. But as far as the other financial shit, it's mainly just focusing on the bad checks. And then I don't know, did she open another life insurance policy during that time frame too? But it's basically a year and a half before Eric was murdered, around that time frame. Oh, you know what? Okay, so maybe for like funerals. Okay. So my parents had something like 10K policy on me. It would have been just enough to cover a funeral. Oh my God, that's so sad. God forbid it, but they wouldn't have profit from it. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's a good yeah. I didn't even think about that. In her journal entry from the retreat, she went and sound like I don't know. There was a text message that she wrote, and I think for me, I'm probably like an overanalyzer and I'm really pessimistic, but there was a text that she wrote to Josh Grossman about this dream that she had about starting a family with him, them buying the Midway mansion, renting it out, and then living in the guest house. And she was like, raise some kids together. And I was like, I don't know. It sounds a little detached. It could mean that, you know, like she's going to raise some kids together, like her kids with Josh, and they will have their own kids. But when she said raise some kids together, I was like, oh, it sounds like she's just going to have like new kids with Josh. But I don't know. Like I said, that's looking looking way too much into it. But yeah, I was just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Nox, thank you so much for joining us. Hello. Thanks for catching the live. Yeah, I was going to stream the Afro Man trial. We did start with, I think, day 1. Oh, by the way, the reason why I had to make the video private after the live stream was because I was trying to edit out the booty butt cheeks, and live streams take a while to process. So by the time it was processed and then I could finally edit it out, it had to process again. So that's the reason why the video kind of disappeared for, I don't know, for a while. But it's back up now. But I just want to make sure the booty butt cheeks were just edited out because I wasn't sure about that. I was like, what am I watching? So we had that part edited out just a little bit. It's, you know, yeah. Because some people are like, oh, what happened to the video? I'm like, oh, it's there. It's coming. Don't worry. Just wait. Hey, Gamble, how are you doing today? Hi, Melissa. How's it going? This guy was so sweet. Good morning, y'all. Oh, the juror. All right, back with Nate.
So that to me was significant down the road when she wanted the next drug that was stronger and possibly the Michael Jackson drug. So that was significant because from my standpoint, why would somebody with back pains need the Michael Jackson drug? I mean, the propofol is not something that you use for pain. So I thought that was significant. But as for Carmen Lober, I thought she was a decent witness. I understand that she had immunity. I understand that she had to be cooperative with the police, but it came across that she was trying to tell the truth to the best of her knowledge. And in cross-examination several times, I mean, like for when she went to the concert and she did things outside of her probation, she was still untruthful. And that didn't have a bearing on the case, at least to me.
I see.
She was going to be truthful as long as it benefited her. I mean, she didn't have any hesitation to lie at times. But again, the important part was did her testimony corroborate with the digital evidence?
And you're saying because the digital evidence backed up what she said, then maybe the other times where she wasn't truthful or forgot, you were willing to forgive that.
Absolutely. I mean, the digital evidence was the true star in that case. If they didn't have digital evidence, reasonable doubt would have been a lot easier.
Interesting. The defense really was forceful with Carmen. I would say out of all the witnesses, they really spent a lot of time trying to discredit her. was any of that effective? I mean, were there points where you're like, oh, they have a point?
I think they overdid their hand, to be honest, with that a little bit. I mean, it was clear early on that her memory wasn't great. That her testimony would be subject to some randomness of.
You see, I think the reason why there was overkill with the defense when they were cross-examining Carmen was because Carmen was like a major witness for the state. Major witness. She's the one that basically ties Kouri to the drugs and then specifically fentanyl. So major witness, and I could see why the defense really like hammered hard in discrediting her. Now, did it feel like you're what's that phrase? Beating a dead horse? Is there a better phrase for that? I actually hate that phrase. It's so sad. But it feels like the reason why they spent so much time on trying to discredit Carmen was because I wonder if in the back of their mind, they knew that there was a large percent that they might not call any witness of their own. I don't know. So it's like, hey, like we might not even call our own witnesses. So we're just going to maximize all the witnesses that are testifying in the stand, even if it comes across maybe a little too crass to the jury. But I think with Carmen, one of the best ways to have discredit her was maybe threw in a little bit of dishonesty in there, but I think for the most part, just be like, oh, hey, like, you just have bad memory, right? Like maybe the memory wasn't there. But like I said, it's hard to try to hammer at someone for having bad memory and then try to say that like, oh, well, it's actually because you're lying. Well, it's like, well, it happened, by the time they got Carmen, it was a year after the drug transactions took place. So I think anyone would probably have a hazy memory. They wouldn't be able to know the exact details of where they met, how much the cash was, how many pills it was exactly, what time of the day it was. Like it's probably a little bit hazy. And so I think that's a reason why people are like, oh, maybe Carmen wasn't lying. And it seems like, like sometimes you just have bad memory, or it's just a natural memory thing where you just forget like small, minor details, right? But I mean, the thing with Carmen was that she testified, she talked about the drug transactions, and yeah, they had to refresh her memory with digital evidence. And I think the defense tried to make it seem like it was very ominous, like, oh, well, they were trying to, plant ideas into your mind. Like, oh my gosh, Carmen, you're so impressionable. And then her going down the route of like the learning disability thing was like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe she just did that. And she did address it in closing, like, hey, I wasn't trying to be insensitive or anything like that. But it was like, oh, that was like, I get what she was trying to do there, but I wonder if there's a better way to have approached the learning disability thing, or just maybe not bring it up at all. I don't know. But that was very, very rough. But yeah, sorry, rant over. But yeah, the phones supported her testimony, and I think that's why the jury was like, hey, I think we believe her.
I think they overdid their hand, to be honest, with that a little bit. I mean, it was clear early on that her memory wasn't great. That her testimony would be subject to some randomness of the facts. But again, knowing that the digital evidence was either going to back her up, and that's what I waited for. I mean, so when the digital evidence came in, it was either going to back her up or it was going to dismiss her testimony, and that was the big part. I think they overdid their hand by trying to discredit her to the degree. I mean, they early on, like I said, they showed that her memory was suspect, and they just that was almost painful to watch.
You're still so curious what she did with all those pills. Me too. Yeah. Maybe she flushed them down the toilet. Like when Grossman testified about eating hush puppies and then being knocked out, I was like, okay, that's interesting. Huh. I wonder if she tried to test a little bit on Grossman. But again, that's just conjecture.
A little bit, because they drug it out so long. Mm-hmm. And they just kept going back and back. And I mean, you began to feel a little bit sorry or sympathetic towards her. And I don't think that was her intention, but that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Christy the other day told me that it was really uncomfortable when Wendy Lewis asked her if she had a learning disability. And you could tell Carmen was uncomfortable with that question too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, she was really upset, and they had to take a little mini break, I think. Also, when they brought Carmen back on the stand, do you guys remember the defense wanted to question Carmen again about her dishonesty, about, I don't know, like something with drug court, and they brought her back on the stand to question her about that, and it just didn't really land at all. At least to me, it didn't. I'm like, why did we bring Carmen back in here for this? Again, I know they're trying to show the pattern of like, oh yeah, you're dishonest or whatever, but she was just so honest about it that it made her seem even more credible to me. Yeah, people were talking about the dog thing. I haven't heard anything about that, but I did see there was like a video thumbnail, and I saw people writing about that in the comments about his dog. But yeah, I don't know much about that.
And again, it wasn't pertinent to the case. So it's just, I don't know I don't know if they were scoring any evidence. I mean, even if she did or didn't, how did that affect whether she bought the drugs or that just didn't have any relevance. I didn't see.
Who was the witness that stuck out to you the most?
It depends on your point of view. There's a couple witnesses that were significant in the fact that they laid a baseline, and that would be so Carmen Lober obviously gave the testimony that Kouri had reached.
Well, I have a question for you guys. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that question? Like, what witness stood out to you guys the most? Out of how many witnesses do we have testifying? 45 witnesses, I think. I think we like 45 or 46. Was there a testimony that just like really resonated with you?
Reached out and asked for her, and as far as the digital evidence, it showed that what she was saying with that was correct, and so that was significant. So that started the case off. The second part or the second people that I would put in there would be the medical examiners. So the medical examiners showed that fentanyl was what caused his death. It gave some insight to how it was ingested. It wasn't taken another way.
Oh yeah, I want to know what his thoughts about the gummies were. The defense hammering over and over again that, oh, Eric, THC gummies. And I want to know what their thoughts about Kouri and quetiapine when she was like, what is quetiapine? What is quetiapine? Taught the code of the PI. None of their stuff landed with me. The defense were really hard when they brought up the learning disability, hence why they had to clarify it in closing. Honestly, I felt like she shouldn't have clarified it in closing. I think when she brought up in closing, I think it felt more like she was speaking to the public than the jurors. I don't know. That was my inkling. Oh, her boyfriend. Yeah.
But it also showed that there were, I think it was, trying to think of the antipsychotic drug that was in his.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That Seroquel was in his system also, which I made a side note of that and reflected on that later. And that came in later because that was actually a drug that was prescribed to Kouri. And I mean,
and she pretended not to know what it was.
Moving forward into the trial, my thoughts were if Eric had a drug problem, why was he taking Seroquel? So I mean I don't see a benefit to have taken that at the time. So but back to the factual matters of,
yeah, to me it's like, if you're going to ingest that much fentanyl, why take fentanyl and Seroquel? Because if you're eating that much fentanyl to get really fucked up, I mean, you don't even need the Seroquel.
Fentanyl was a cause of death. It was ingested. So those two points were irrefutable. So that's what's significant. But then you had the undercover officer.
Oh yes, tell us more about the undercover officer, because we didn't get to hear his testimony. We got to listen to the beginning of it, and then they're like, "Boom, take off the footage, guys."
So his testimony to me was significant in the fact that he laid out without any reason to alter his testimony that fentanyl was as early as 21, late 20s. That fentanyl was on the streets in Salt Lake City. So that kind of contradicted what Crozier had said, that fentanyl wasn't until the end of 2022.
Yeah, the officer had said it was already going around the time that Kouri had requested something stronger.
Right. So
yeah, and then the other juror number 3, also said that the undercover officer testified saying that they looked very similar. Like you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They had the same like M30 imprint. The pill colors were very similar. So it seems like, people may have thought they were buying Roxy's or Oxys, but ended up getting fentanyl instead. And would it really surprise me that Crozier was selling both? No. He might have been selling both, or he might have just been selling fentanyl and be like, oh yeah, these are Oxys or these are Roxy's. I don't know. But I think that was definitely something that I was entertaining.
But probably the most significant and entertaining witness was Todd Gabler.
The private investigator.
Correct. I think it was his diligence, his professionalism, and his doghound of finding the information and some of the truth with his testimony and his evidence that he's then shared with the cops. I think that's what started the case.
Miss Rose, downer on top of a downer is never really something most addicts would go for. As an addict in recovery, congrats. I have some experience. Lamau, thanks for sharing with us. Yeah, I don't think anyone's trying to get high off of Seroquel. Lol. Yeah, I'm very, very curious as to how fentanyl and the quetiapine got in Eric's system. I just don't see how Eric could have ingested that much fentanyl without tasting it and then realizing something's really off about this. I'm just going to yak it up. So it's like, I wonder if, I don't know. It's like, did she drug him with Seroquel? And then she somehow was able to get all that fentanyl in his system? Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible to just just lemon drop shot it back, right? But like, I feel like it would just be so disgusting and nasty. I don't know. I think a lot of confusion in Carmen's Lober's cross came from the fact that Miss Lewis was conflating events and confusing herself. Yeah, the reason... So when you're cross-examining and there's a lot of flipping pages, so the witness was there, I think when Miss Lewis was trying to intimidate Carmen with the 3 fat binders, I think it really ended up backfiring on her, because when they were just sitting there shuffling through the binders, at times it would just lose our interest. Like, we're just like, okay, well, this is kind of boring. They're just shuffling through binders. And it's hard to tell the difference between, was Miss Lewis referring to Carmen's direct testimony? Was she referring to Carmen's interview with law enforcement? And if so, which of the 7 interviews? Or was she referring to what actually happened or what Carmen thought happened? Right? There were so many different timelines, and even at some point the judge had to step in and clarify a few times and was like, hey, what the fuck are we talking about here? Because I think there's a confusion here. I think we need to be very, very clear if we're talking about, Carmen's story in interview number 4, or Carmen's like direct testimony about what she thought happened in interview number 5, right? It was very confusing. And yeah, the binders and binders and binders just really, really lost us. And I think that's why, attorneys, they've got to make a pivot. They've got to make a change. I think like the old school way is like, let's just read through the binders and stuff like that. Or like when she was doing her closing argument, right? It's like, well, let me just go up there and just speak it all out, right? Because that's probably, like what you would normally do back in the day. But like now it's like you have to kind of adapt. Look at Brad Bloodworth. The fact that he went up there, I think even in opening too, didn't he have his like PowerPoint presentations? Like you got to have something out there. And I know, like, it's not that hard to put together a PowerPoint presentation, right? You can either put it together yourself or, you can have someone in your office do it. But I think Lewis had a way of doing things that was like more old school that probably worked in the past. But in today's age, I feel like you really got to adapt. I don't know. Like shuffling through those binders, like, yes, you have to, refresh someone's memory with that. But like at some point, if you're doing it for 2 hours straight and it's not really landing, you're just going to lose the jury. You're going to lose the jury and you're going to lose the people who are watching. But Crozier contradicted himself when he said that people were afraid of getting fentanyl because it looked like Oxyroxy, and then tried to say, oh, I didn't have that. But in his interview, he sounded sure. Yeah. When I first read Crozier's affidavit, the one that was written like half a year ago. Oh, sorry, he said he didn't write it. He said they wrote it out and he signed it or some shit. But half a year ago, there was the affidavit, and he really made it seem like he was like super out of his mind, you know, and is like detoxing. I was like, I've seen people detox in movies before. It's not fucking fun. It's horrible. You're fucking miserable. You're sweating. You're like, you know, like it's like you're in so much pain. But then when we saw Crozier in the police interview, and he's just like, "Hey guys, oh yeah, I don't know what's my phone number." They're like, "You don't know your phone number?" Like, "I don't know my phone number." And then, you know, when they were like, "Oh, okay," you know, like threatening him a little bit with you know, with the feds coming on him, he was like, "Oh, well, okay, well, you know, okay, I'm going to cooperate." Yeah, I know who Carmen is. Oh yeah, you know, I remember going to a Maverick and Draper. You know, like I feel like um my expectations of Crozier in that interview was completely not what I expected based on when I was reading the affidavit. So I wonder if the jury had that sort of same sentiment that, oh, this guy was not trying to, he was trying to not be truthful. And I think it's not because him and Carmen are similar. It's like, no, Carmen is very different than Crozier. I think Carmen was trying to be truthful and she just had, you know, of course, like memory issues, which everyone does. And then Crozier, I think Crozier was, you know, I think he purposely was trying to obfuscate a bit. Crozier didn't sound like he was detoxing. Like he could have been, but it seemed like he was probably in like, not in the beginning stages or in the middle stages. He was probably like towards like the end where like, you know, he was starting to probably adjust a lot better.
The defense made a kind of a big deal about that in their closing, that it was him, that he was leading the investigation, that we should be scared because it's a private person that doesn't have to follow law enforcement rules. Did that resonate to you at all?
I mean, not really. I mean, he followed the rules that he's allowed to follow. So I mean, if you don't like the rules that he follows, then change the laws that he has to follow. I mean, or put some sort of restraint on what he can bring into the case. I think he followed the rules that he was allowed to follow. I don't think that he was leading the investigation. I just think he provided them information. I think from my standpoint, I mean, Summit County it's not a big city. It's not a big county. Don't get a lot of murders up here. And so you feel for the guys that, like you had talked earlier about some of the body cam. I think the body cam footage, again, when the guys are first coming in, I don't think they're not big city cops. They're not looking to say, okay, the first thing I'm going to look for is a murder investigation or some criminal wrongdoing. You have to balance that between being sympathetic to a grieving wife, that what they foresaw initially. I know the defense focused on the bottle of oxy. No,
the empty bottle found by the bed.
The empty bottle that was dated in 16, that expired.
Yeah, it was a hydrocodone.
16. They kept bringing that up. It didn't have a lot of relevance. Had some relevance, but
I think they pivoted a lot with that hydrocodone bottle. They're like, well, is it possible that he had this expired bottle around and then he just like put like fentanyl pills in there? It's like, what? Because I think the question that the defense attorney asked of one of the law enforcement officer was like, oh, don't people like conceal drugs? You know, don't they sometimes put it in like another bottle that it doesn't belong into or something like that?
Not a ton. So I mean, yeah, there was things that they could have done, and I think in hindsight they may have done some things differently, but it didn't change some of the facts. A better search earlier on would have been helpful. Obviously, wouldn't have changed our outcome if it would have proved what we thought happened.
You mentioned Gabler was a little bit of an entertaining witness. Tell me what you mean by that.
A little bit.
Well, I mean, again, this is movie type stuff. I mean, he comes in with a cane, dressed to the nines, in a sharp suit, and with a neck brace in tow. Comes in, takes the witness stand, goes through the prosecution's thing, and he seemed fairly professional. Seems like he knew what he was doing.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about the cocaine jar. I completely forgot about that. Oh my gosh, where did that come from again? Was that from like an audio recording or? Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that.
He was familiar with both the case. He was familiar with the legal system. When the defense came on, I mean, they tried to rattle him, but he really pushed back. I mean, and so some of his responses were surprising and entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, I think most of us watching kind of felt that way, that he could not be shaken. What did you think when he was on the stand and Kathy Nestor brought up what she called sext messaging between Eric Richins and his buddy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was interesting because early on in the case, they had said that there was possible infidelity on Eric's side. And
yes, I felt like they were hyping that so much. Oh my gosh. They brought it up in cross-examination of, I think, some of the female friends that Kouri was friends with. So they brought it up with a coworker. I remember that. So I was like, okay, maybe that has some credence. But then they like completely just like took a shit and started talking about the sexting with Eric and his buddy Bryce. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the messages were bad, but based on the PI's reaction to it and him giggling when he was pretty much like stoic and like hard the entire time, something tells me that it was probably just jokes, just laughing giggles. Amber said Johnny had a jar of cocaine. Was it in one of the was it when she was testifying, or was it in a deposition or in an audio recording? Oh my gosh.
And they had never come really back to that. And it was a coworker. And initially I had thought that it was of opposite sex, not the same sex.
Right.
So when
so he probably got confused about that.
And that was when that was the thing, and some of the text messages, what the few that they brought out, I was like, that was what you were talking about. So I was kind of along with him, and so his response was entertaining. He didn't take it seriously, and I personally didn't either. So I was hoping that there would have been. I mean, I wouldn't say hoping. Hoping is probably the bad word, because it some of the testimony, even all the way throughout.
Hey, if someone lays the expectation, then you're hoping that they follow through. Okay, that's the thing. It's not like we want to find out that Eric was cheating or having an affair. It's just like, oh, well, if you're going to bring this up, then there better be something to back it up.
The trial, or not the testimony, but some of the emails and text messages. It's you feel kind of gross listening to some of it, because it just feels voyeuristic and like I understand the need for it, but it's still like you don't necessarily want to be there doing it.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot of text messages, especially with the boyfriend. Tell me your thoughts about the boyfriend taking the stand. That was a pivotal day in many people's eyes when he walked in the courtroom, clearly uncomfortable, and it appeared, at least to me, that he really didn't want to be there.
Yeah, clearly he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Clearly. I'll walk through it in the phases. I mean, his initial swearing in didn't go as planned, and that was I mean, the judge then rushed us out of the.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a adverse witness. I don't know. I thought he was going to be combative on the stand when the state was going to question him. But then I was like, oh no, I think it was for different reasons than what I initially thought. The mega pint of wine. It was testifying. It led to the meme with Jack Sparrow with his jar of Jack. I remember that. Oh my gosh. There's just so many things that I just completely forgot about that. That's a wild one. That was fucking wild. I can't believe that was actually real life. Crazy.
Courtroom, and they by the end, it only took a couple minutes, but then brought us back in. He was already seated. It was quick to see that. I mean, I felt bad. I mean, I initially I didn't know what I was gonna feel, because we had heard in opening that she had a boyfriend, who it was, in the name.
Mm-hmm.
And they shared a snippet of a couple of the text messages showing that there was a relationship there. So having then seen him on stand and gotten his backstory, I felt for the guy. I mean, I don't think he had anything significant to do with the trial. I think he's a broken guy, to be honest. So the fact that he was an ex-service member, served his country, clearly probably has PTSD.
And I think she took advantage of that, I feel like she she surrounded herself with like broken people and then just used them, But you know what I want to know? Who the fuck is Lottie? We reread the entire Walk the Dog letter, and initially I thought Lottie was her boyfriend. But now I'm like, I wonder if she was seeing more than one guy. because she was directing her mom to tell Lottie to take I think maybe even a HELOC too, to get some money and to pay. There was like some houses that she had, and she didn't want them to go into foreclosure or something like that. So now I'm like, who the fuck is Lottie? I don't know.
I think he was clearly in love with Kouri. And even when he was on the stand, I mean, he was shaken to the core. So that was rough. I don't think his testimony, I mean, other than he's a part of it, and I know that there's the salacious side of it, but there's a few tidbits here and there that he shared. Kouri asking him, again, this goes kind of builds on the consciousness of guilt or actions that Kouri had taken throughout things, asking him, so kind of.
Miss Rose says she's a narcissist. Her entire family seem to be. She only sees people how she can use them. Honestly, I think her mom probably knew a lot. Her brothers, I don't know. It's not like we have a lot of interaction. We have some jailhouse calls and stuff like that, but I think her brothers genuinely believed her. I don't know. Maybe they knew that she was a piece of shit and that she could have murdered Eric. But I think I don't know. The feeling that I get was like, I think they generally believed her. Ronnie didn't come off as someone who was. He kind of came off as someone who was like maybe more gullible or naive to me. So I think that he wanted to believe his sister. They were probably really close, and there were times where Kouri was trying so hard to lie about things, but put it on the record in these jailhouse calls that I felt like the brother was like disconnecting and then kind of just going along with it, because he didn't want to like call his sister out in the phone call, but then he probably wasn't buying what she was saying. With the walk the dog letter, I think, because like Kouri gave such a filtered version of what happened. She said that like, oh, there's this novel that I was writing and they took pieces of it and they were trying to say, use it against me. I think he genuinely believed her at that time. And then poor guy, had to be fucking interviewed and he had to go up there and stand up for his sister. And I feel so bad for people like this, people that are supporting their family members, but then they're also getting duped by them. I don't know. That's what I think. I think that's what happened. Do you guys remember? Oh, fuck. Was it the girl that went missing? I forgot. Carly Ray. I forgot. I think her name was like Carly. She went missing and I think she showed up out of nowhere. And then she was like, oh, I was kidnapped. And I forgot what was the reason for her doing it. What was the motive behind it? Was she trying to get out of something? But her family backed her up like 100% that like it wasn't a hoax. She was kidnapped by someone and she escaped them. And so she allowed her family to go on like national TV defending her, only to find out later on that she was lying the entire time. I always feel so bad for people like that because you want to believe your family members, right? If you have a daughter, you have like, dad, mom, brother, sister, you want to believe them. So it really sucks when you fucking believe them and you're in their corner, but then they fucking lie to you. But at that point, you've already defended them in the public. And it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for people when that happens. I wonder if Kouri wanted to hook up with Bri. I'll show that comment. Yeah, we have questions with Bryce and his pants off. Sherry Papini. No, Sherry was one too. Sherry was one too. Can you converse without the fuck bombs? No, fuck. I like to cuss. No, Sherry Papino was one of them. The one that I was talking about was, I think it took place in Georgia. I think it was in Georgia. But no, Sherry Papino was one of them. That's really sad too. I think, isn't she and her husband, isn't there some sort of like civil lawsuit happening right now or something like that? I don't know. She popped up in my feed about like half a year ago.
Slowly asking him if he did drugs and to find out if he had knowledge or ability or access to drugs. And then afterwards asking him if he.
Yes. Yeah. She saw a toddler on the highway and then like she went to go help or something. But then she said that she ended up getting abducted. Sorry, not kidnapped. Abducted. And then she like abducted by like two people, a couple or something like that. And then she ended up like escaping. Yeah. Carly Russell. That's her name.
He had killed anybody and how it made him feel. odd ways to phrase it. Under the circumstances, I thought. Again, none of it by itself would bring you to a conclusion that she did it to pass the threshold of reasonable doubt. It's a culmination of all the things. It's just a small data point on the side that you say, okay, yeah, that kind of points in the same direction.
Yeah, it's interesting that he had remembered that she had asked him that enough to then contact, when he heard that she had written the book, to contact Eric's sister and then get in touch with the investigators.
Right. I think, I mean, all of it, I mean, and you have to take that into, at least I did. I took it into consideration, having reflected on a second hand. It wasn't something that he came out straightforward about. It was something that came out after reflection. So you do have, it does add a bit of a question to it. So again, like I said, to me, it wasn't a major data point, more a data point that it just kind of reflected in the same degree. And if my lean was already one way, then I could apply it in that aspect, but not put a lot of weight on it. I mean, I honestly hope that an agency out there or that will help reach out to him to try to get him help, because I honestly think he needs it.
Oh,
I've had a couple of agencies reach out to me hoping to get in touch with him, and
that's good. Yeah, I mean, I really do feel for Josh Grossman. I hope he's in a better place now. But if he does need that little extra help, I hope he's able to get that.
have passed along that information, and hopefully he can get the help. I know a lot of people were concerned when he did walk off the stand that he was not. He clearly was emotional, putting his head down and
he was in a bad way. I mean, like I said, I don't think the relationship. I mean, from the text that I did see, and over the course of the investigation that they showed through the trial, doesn't seem like that relationship was from her side was the same as it was from his side.
Yeah, he clearly really loved her, and I think someone said he thought she loved him.
Correct.
Okay, so you heard from him. You also heard from the financial forensic accountant, who I think
The forensic accountant, that was a huge one for me.
was a whole day on the stand. How pivotal was that testimony?
Significant in the way that you kind of see how it's kind of that her business kind of started to spiral out of control, where her debt started to amass in a way that, I mean, she was paying outrageous interest.
Mm-hmm.
She was making daily payments.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to remember the law or the hard credit agency that she had went through. But she just started to accumulate more and more interest and more debt, and it started to spiral out of control. I mean, she initially started to try to juggle a couple of them, and she seemed like she was doing okay with that. And again, that's a risk tolerance that you're willing to take. I mean, so it's in some investments, you're willing to take on a certain amount of risk, knowing the payment. But it just seemed like it started getting out of control with her.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I think at one point was it like $3,000 a day she was paying, or was supposed to be paying?
It was the amount of money that she was having to pay every day, and especially for the amount of money that was coming in, was unsustainable.
And very stressful too. That's fucking crazy, dude. No wonder that, I don't know, she resorted to wanting to kill her husband, I guess. It's horrible. But that is just so stressful. And then for her to have all those overdraft fees, I think they said more than 200 overdraft fees. That's so stressful.
So you talked about the witnesses that kind of, hit home for you. Was the key piece of evidence for you those cell phone data points that they had hard evidence on?
That's the crux of the case, because that proves the connection that Kouri, or at least, so that's where Lober comes in, because Lober connects Kouri to asking for the drugs, and then Lober and then Crozier. You got to see the digital information as they drove literally down to the Draper gas station and met up, and that repeated itself 3 times, and so and with the exact same pattern. So would have been nice to have been able to recover the actual text that were sent during those messages or during those drives, but the fact that Lober was both in contact with Crozier and Kouri at the same time, you just can't get past that.
Tony, what did you think about the communication that Kouri had with her mom in jail? You all didn't know it was in jail, or maybe you assumed, but that was one thing the defense really fought hard when you were out of the courtroom, to not let you all know that she had been incarcerated since the time she was arrested.
For me, I just assumed she was. I mean,
Hey, Gentry, how are you doing today? You pay $2,200 a month in student loans. I couldn't imagine spending $2K a day. Yeah, and it was completely stacked. It was like $3,000 a day, and then she had some loans that were required to be paid weekly on top of the monthly. And then if she didn't pay the loan in time, they would tack on this fee, and then she would have to pay interest on that fee too. And it was just wild. It was just crazy.
I mean,
You did, yeah.
under the case, I mean, it didn't weigh one way or another to me. It's just, okay, she was incarcerated, she was accused of murder. We knew that she was arrested. I mean, they had stated that multiple times throughout the trial that she had been arrested. I just assumed that she was arrested and awaiting trial or in jail. It didn't, I don't know, it didn't bother me that she was in jail. I'm trying to remember if there was anything that she said that swayed me, and there may have been, I could check my notes, but I don't remember anything significant, at least in the telephone calls that they talked about, as to whether or not it was pertinent to the case.
The calls with her mom were about the poisoning of the sandwich. Her mom was
Yeah, and then the note, and she was just laughing, and she was like, "They're idiots."
saying they think that you poisoned a sandwich on Valentine's Day, and Kouri's indignant that how could they think that? They're stupid, they're idiots, things like that. It was more.
But here's the thing. I think the reason why people thought that there was a sandwich with a love note next to it was because the prosecution team probably heard it from Eric's family and Eric's friends. Because remember, that day apparently Eric had called the the sister and his two friends and was like, "Hey, like, I don't know, man. I think my wife tried to poison me, or he didn't feel well. He wanted, felt like he needed to go to the hospital. He was like kind of scared." And so they weren't allowed to introduce what Eric said because of hearsay, but that's where they probably got it from, and Kouri really laughed it off, trying to make it seem like, oh, the prosecution team just made this up. It's like, they probably heard it from the people that Eric was talking to that night or that day.
More about the attempted murder on the Valentine's Day incident.
Right. And that, I mean, that didn't, like I said, it didn't sway me because you couldn't prove that significantly, that in and of itself. I mean, I would expect her to say that. I mean, if she's in jail for both the murder of her husband and possibly now that she knows that there's an attempted murder. So I didn't gather, I mean, it's what you would expect somebody in jail to say. Everybody in prison is innocent, right? So it's what I kind of expected. So it didn't significantly mean a lot. We knew that she bought the sandwich. We knew that she knew that Eric got sick. And to me, that was like from the attempted murders charge. That was what was significant on my side. So from my side.
And you know what? I'm actually glad that there was some evidence that came out or some testimony that was left out, because initially the prosecution team wanted to have this expert to testify about, if Eric thought he was poisoned the first time, why would he continue staying in a relationship with Kouri, knowing that the egg sandwich could have been poisoned and she could have attempted, to take his life. I think the fact that it was already pretty convoluted, I would say, because there were so many things happening with Kouri. There was the financial stuff, there's the affair, there's the attempted murder with the egg sandwich, and there's just a lot happening in this case. I think at the end, it was actually good that there was some evidence and testimony that didn't end up coming in. But yeah, I could see why initially they thought it was going to be a 5 weeks long trial, but there's a lot that didn't come in. And even though I made a video sharing with you guys what I knew didn't come in, there's a lot more that we don't know because a lot of the stuff was sealed. So I do want to keep an eye out to see if they ever unseal some other stuff, because I just feel like there's so much that they kept out of the public.
Side, her husband calls her saying that he's so sick that he may end up going to the hospital, and she's like, "Oh well, I'll see you in a little while." So yeah. I mean, if my sense is if that was my spouse, I mean, whatever I was doing, I would drop and come to assist him in one way or another. So
especially on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it was Valentine's Day. Nope, she was too busy cheating.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, from the salacious side, it adds to that fact that she's there with a boyfriend, and she doesn't respond to that type of a call from.
And I honestly, it just seems really stupid of Kouri too. So let's say that Valentine's Day poisoning, if she had successfully murdered Eric that day, what did she expect to tell law enforcement her alibi was? Right? Wouldn't you have a solid alibi that doesn't include having an affair with your boyfriend? Like, I just felt like Kouri's just like, she's just really dumb. I don't know. Like, she wasn't thinking this through. Because I highly doubt that she was going to be like, oh, where was I? Oh, I was at a job site, but then they would be able to verify that, oh, she was with another guy. It's just so crazy to me because the Valentine's Day poisoning, he could have been murdered that day. You would think that she would not spend time with her paramour on Valentine's Day. Instead, her alibi would have been like, oh yeah, like, I was with my family, or I was, at the kid's school, or I was at a job site, and just be nowhere near Josh Grossman. I don't know. It's just so weird how she wanted that to be her alibi. Because she would have to lie about it. And when they find out that she lied about it and she was actually with her lover, that's going to make her even more suspicious. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
That standpoint, it was difficult, just because I wouldn't have reacted that way. And then obviously the damning evidence to her was a couple days later, she got new pills that she asked for something stronger.
Yeah. You mentioned the children's book earlier, Tony. What did you think about that? And we also learned that she really didn't write it. She was a ghostwriter to write it and hoped to sell 100,000 copies in the first year.
Right. I didn't put a lot
$5 each. Okay. She was going to make $500,000 from that. I wonder how much money she did end up making though.
into it. It didn't have, I mean, again, it was after the fact. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, once you got to a decision or a thought process that she was probably guilty, then it seemed in bad taste. But I think it was more so just an opportunity came up. She was willing to take the opportunity. She clearly probably still needed.
Hey, Gail, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for the super chat. Hello, hello. I hope you're having a lovely Saturday. Thanks so much. Valentine's, so it would be crazy to think his wife would do it on that day of all days. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what she was probably trying to go with. But the fact that her alibi would have been, oh, I was cheating on my husband, like that does not look good.
So the money obviously still was a pressing issue with her. So I didn't take a lot of significance out of it. I think, and I won't speak for the other jurors. I would think mothers might see it a little bit different than fathers do. I mean, other than it's kind of in bad taste under the circumstances, but I didn't have a problem with it as pertaining to the case.
Let me ask you, Tony, what you think the defense did well.
Wow,
That's that's a long sigh. He was like, oh, wow, like, okay, what did the defense do well? I mean, let me think about this real hard. I think it was a tough ride for them. Okay. They had a pretty difficult client to defend.
The way that I kind of looked at it was the defense kind of, I mean, they started with the hand they were dealt. So there was some huge obstacles that they overcame, or they had to overcome. And with the hand that they were dealt, I just think it was just kind of insurmountable, at least with what the information that they presented. They focused on discrediting, I think, most of the witnesses. I think that was their primary effort. So Carmen Lober, Todd Gabler, didn't go as hard against Crozier, which he's not the most upstanding of citizens. But all in all, I think that they had an uphill battle. And
yeah, so he mentioned that they didn't go as hard in cross-examination with Crozier, but that's because Crozier ended up being a positive for the defense team because, he'd like end up changing his testimony. But was he like an overall positive as in like during the trial? No, not for the defense team. No, I don't think so. I think Crozier initially came off as like, if I'm the jury, I probably would have been like, oh, okay, like, this is kind of confusing, but all right, well, maybe they weren't fentanyl. But then when you have that police interview that was played for the jury, it's like, oh, never mind. I don't find this guy credible because he just seems like he's lying. Okay. Anyways.
they did what they could with the cards that they were dealt. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to.
What did you think when they rested?
That I was surprised at.
Mhm.
That was probably what caught me off guard the most in the whole trial. Again, the prosecution had rested, and we were getting ready to hear possibly what their best cards were or best evidence was. You know, when you go to the trial, and again, you can't talk to anybody. You can't even talk to the jurors in the jury room. You can't go home and talk to your spouse about it. You can't help but replay the day of court in your mind, or the evidence that you've heard in your mind, and try to come to I won't say a conclusion, but an idea as to where it's going to go next. And because again, as you go through the prosecution, you get more and more toward a decision, but always leaving the door open for something else to come in. I mean, you're not concrete saying, okay, this is absolutely it. This is what I think it is. And I tried not to do that, and think I did a pretty good job with leaving myself open to anything that came in. I did try to think about what would it be, or what could change my mind. What evidence could they possibly show, and try.
And I think that's actually a really good question to ask. So like, if you guys ever have like a position that you're like completely hard stance on, I think a good question is to ask like, well, what is something that could change my mind about this? And I think it's good. I think it's really insightful, because it's like, well, you're open to, to other ideas, right? And that you recognize that like, oh, like this is my position, but if there's something out there that could possibly, maybe like enlighten me a little bit, or, maybe like, kind of like reposition me to the other side. Yeah, I think it's a good question to ask yourself. Hey, hi Richie, how are you doing today? This juror is so fair and insightful. Toy Hoarder said, or this is the defense team, they were unprepared and inept. I think showing his initial interview changed things in the prosecution's favor. The initial interview, yeah, the one that he had with law enforcement, right, when he was already incarcerated.
I had to think of it in that aspect, and the one thing I had thought of that again, Kouri had said that she had bought it for a client.
Yeah, who was the client?
If she could have produced a client, that they would have been able to put on the stand that said that asked her to buy the drugs, and that he had gotten all the drugs. That might have been significant, depending on how credible they were, obviously. But yeah, it was surprising. I was surprised that they arrested when they did, and I didn't hold it against them, but it did put it shifted the burden to, okay, now I have to basically make my decision on the information that's been given. And since they chose not to give any additional information that could have benefited them more, or at least tried to, that was the risk that they took.
So were you disappointed that they didn't present anything?
I won't say disappointed. I'd say shocked.
I was disappointed. I wanted there to be more. I don't know. I was really curious what we were going to do with all the sexting and the messages, and who they were going to call. I thought they were going to call Bryce. I thought they were going to call Nicole Cummings. I thought they're going to recall Carmen back on the stand, maybe even Crozier. Yeah, I was like ready. I was like, okay, like, we already have some hints, some sprinkles here and there of how they were combating some of the evidence, but I wanted them to call their own witnesses.
Mm-hmm. Did you want Kouri to take the stand? Did you want to hear from her?
Of course.
Yeah. Of course, as someone there, I assumed that she wasn't going to take a stand from the get-go. I assumed. Yeah. Would it have been nice to hear from her? Absolutely. I mean, she's the one on trial, so you would want to hear her side of the story from her. But
and then also Kouri had her own private investigator, but I don't know if it was a private investigator that was hired by Sky Lazaro, and then when Sky Lazaro withdrew, the private investigator was no longer working with Kouri. I don't know, but apparently they had a private investigator at some point.
I from the get-go, I assumed that she probably wouldn't testify.
I asked what you thought the defense did well. What do you think the prosecution did well?
I think the prosecution's closing statements were their best effort. So there they tied a lot of stuff together. They gave you a story that was plausible, that you could see how one thing connected to another, and I thought that was their best effort throughout the trial. I mean, they did okay through the other things. There was times when you didn't know what some of the witnesses' true effect on the case were. So it didn't but they did tie it up in the end.
Can you kind of take us behind the scenes, Tony? What was it like during the breaks in the jury room?
In the beginning, it was, I won't say awkward, but I mean, you had to find things to talk about that weren't the case.
Man, I hate small talk. I'd be like, okay, guys, I'm just going to be in my corner reading my book. Bye.
with 11 other people that you didn't know. So, and I mean, the elephant in the room obviously was the case. So that was I think we did really, really well with that. So we got to know each other. I mean, it was, from my standpoint, it was a privilege to have served with the 11 people that I served with. They turned out to be both very studious people, but some of them very entertaining. Some of the stories that were told in the break room were interesting. But yeah, we got along. We did bond fairly quickly for the short time that we were there. But yeah.
I mean, I bet they did, because oh my God, they took so many breaks. Well, not really breaks. It was more like the jury had to be excused from the room so many times. So I'm sure they had a lot of time to just talk.
Yeah, it was interesting, but some really, I think, some great people.
Yeah, Brad, for sure. He would have destroyed her if she testified on the stand. Oh my gosh, to catch her in all the lies that she's told so far and all the inconsistencies. Oh my gosh, she would have been completely wrecked.
When the case was finally turned over to you, was it like a pressure valve was released that you could finally go back and talk about it with them? And what was that like? How do you choose a jury four-person?
So yeah, it was nice it was finally nice to be able to go back and actually get to talk to the people that you spent the last 3 weeks with, and were forbidden to talk to about the reason that you were there. So from that standpoint, yeah, it was nice to open up. The suggestion had been made when we got back, especially since when Judge dismissed the alternates and we found out that it was for the women. That when we went back, the suggestion was made that they thought that whatever the verdict would be, it would probably be best coming from a woman, and we were fine. Everybody was fine with that. So I didn't have a problem with that. I thought it was actually a good decision, or a good idea.
And then the four-person did end up being a woman. What were the deliberations like? You guys came to a decision in less than 3 hours. I think a lot of people were shocked by that, but others say, well, no, there wasn't much debate there.
I actually thought they would come back the next day, but I'm glad that they powered through, because they probably didn't want to come back the next day, you know?
Well, I mean, I take some exceptions to the fact and I understand the reasoning behind it. I mean, the people watching and what you get used to with some cases, what you see on TV shows and that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is the 8 jurors that were there had been there for all 3 weeks. I know every day we didn't actually deliberate, but we were there. We were studious. We took notes. We listened to all the evidence, and then you go home and you still can't talk about it. I mean, so for 3 weeks, I went to bed every night thinking about the case. I woke up thinking about the case. So I mean, you think about what you've heard, where it might go, how you process the information that you have been given. So 3 weeks is a long time to sit there and think about one thing. So yeah, when we got to the deliberation room, we took the advice of the judge, and we let everybody give their points or their significant inputs from the trial. And we went around the table, and they would discuss it. And it wasn't like a monologue. They would talk about it, and we would talk back and forth. And then we go to the next person, and they would talk about what they saw, and they would go back and forth. And it was interesting to see, because a lot of people did still have different points of view, or saw it from a different angle. So when it got to me, I gave my points, and then it went around for the rest of the group, and then we went in sort of sequential order. We went with the murder first, attempted murder, and then we jumped to
forgery, fraud.
Actually, we went to 4 because that one was isolated, because 3 and 5 were tied together, because that insurance fraud and the forgery were tied together. They had to do with the same one. So we skipped and went to 4, talked about that, and then went to the other 2. From my standpoint, on the first one, I went and this is where I said,
The jury needs to take a group photo in front of the Midway Mansion. What's wild is that the other juror actually, she saw the Midway Mansion before and it was actually unfinished. And so for her to tie that to, oh, Kouri's the one who purchased the Midway Mansion, and the reason why it was left like that for over a year is because, well, like, Kouri couldn't sell it and she couldn't flip it and she couldn't do anything with it. Kouri may not know that Sarah Quill was Kataipin. Yeah, I guess that's a possibility. That's a possibility. If she didn't drug Eric with quetiapine and she didn't know what quetiapine was or its purpose, and let's say she got a prescription, she completely forgot about it. Yeah, that's possible. But because I think that she did drug Eric with quetiapine and she knew what quetiapine's purpose was, and maybe she was trying to get Eric to be sluggish, for her to call the medical examiner, I assume that she just was pretending not to know what it was. But yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. Like, if Kouri didn't like drug Eric with it. Oh, we can't see Remy. Remy says hi, by the way. He just jumped up here.
Earlier that the Emmys and their information was pertinent. So I looked at the case backwards. So we know Eric died, and we know that he was poisoned, or he died from fentanyl, and we know that it was ingested.
Who is this girl? I know I subbed to her channel. I'm someone that lives in your basement. Hello, Marcia.
So at the time of the death, the only people around were him and his family. So with those first facts that he died, and he died of fentanyl and it was ingested, you're left with only a few options. So he either committed suicide, died from an accidental overdose.
But I was surprised that the defense was not pushing the suicide theory. I thought they were going to try to just throw everything out there and see what sticks. So I thought they were going to entertain the suicide thing. I thought they were going to entertain the accidental overdose. But what's wild to me was I was like, oh, well, maybe they didn't want to say that Eric committed suicide because Kouri was adamant about Eric not being suicidal when he was on a jail call with her brother. But then you remember all the times that Kouri was like telling everyone that Eric didn't do drugs, didn't do hard drugs. She told the investigators that, she told the medical examiner, she told her friends that, her family that. So the fact that she told more people about him not doing hard drugs versus, the suicide talk, I thought it was kind of interesting. So I don't know why the defense decided to not try to entertain that. Oh, Eric, maybe Eric did it because he wanted to end his life, but.
Or was intentionally poisoned by someone else. And so that went around the room. So we initially, and we asked, so does anybody think that he died from suicide? And we all said no, because there wasn't any evidence that showed that. There was no pattern that showed that he was suicidal, that he didn't write a note, that he loved his kids, that he was planning on the future. So there's a lot of significant information that showed that was unlikely the case. So we dismissed that. And then you're left with two. Did he die from an accidental overdose? Well, that again, the evidence probably didn't show. I know that they brought it up, but the evidence didn't show that was a possibility, or at least a likelihood in our mind. And
yeah, and it just really seems like if someone had that much fentanyl in their system, it seemed like it because someone wanted them dead.
And with that, the fact that you accidentally die from 5 times the amount of a lethal dose, that doesn't seem practical either. So, and we talked about that for a little while. That possibility, and we went through our notes and went through the information that they brought us back and watched some of the videos, and we all came to the same conclusion that he didn't die from an accidental overdose. That he didn't seem like he was a habitual user of drugs, or even a casual of drugs, other than the gummies. Which, and again, one of the forensic people had said that. The TCH companies rarely come in contact with fentanyl. It's not part of their process.
Right. So you guys went very methodically through each of the charges, discussed them, and then moved on to the next one.
Correct.
And what is that moment like when you've reached the last charge and you all agree? Is it like, okay, let's tell the judge?
Yeah, I mean, some of it, some of it we had to go around and take a number of votes. I mean, so everything wasn't as straightforward. The first one was more straightforward.
The murder.
The murder was the first charge of murder,
Yeah.
aggravated murder, but the aggravated attempted murder wasn't as straightforward. And again, as you probably know from the record, though we found her guilty because the way that the instructions were written, you had the option of finding her and/or. So there's two elements.
For sure, they couldn't produce a single bit of evidence to support him being a drug addict. There would have been a text or something. And I thought they would have maybe Kouri's family testify to say that, oh, they knew that, you know, Eric would do drugs, and Eric was like really shady with the Mexico trips, that he really wasn't hunting. It was mostly like a cover for drugs. I thought maybe they would have, I don't know, like an old coworker of Eric's to testify saying that he wasn't reliable. Like, I don't know. I really thought that they were going with that route because they kept hammering in that it was an accidental overdose. But when we heard from the state witnesses, they talked about how reliable Eric was. Didn't miss a day of work. Even when he was sick, he would try to power through it. You know, he ran a very successful business, and apparently he had an addiction to fentanyl that no one knew about. No one got a whiff of. He was staying because of his religion. Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah. I think was it Mormons don't like to divorce, right? Like they kind of just like stick through with their marriage. Or am I thinking of a different religion?
Or two sub-elements to the account of attempted murder, whether it was for in order to by a process of going after for money for pecuniary, or whether it was for attempted murder or through giving the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't list that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point too. Jen says that someone made a point that ODs are usually messy. Yep. It's like, so you're telling me that Eric OD'd and did not leave anything out? That's kind of odd. Like there's no pills laying around, no baggies laying around, needles, whatever it is, you know? It's, yeah. I don't know. I don't think Kouri really thought this through. I think she was really going with the story that, oh, she loved her husband and she didn't know that he was a drug addict this entire time, but he must have been a drug addict. Yeah. But then she had to explain her connection with Carmen. And she's like, oh, well, actually, he told me to buy the drugs for him. You know, back pain.
And I could look it up for to make sure I have it with me. But it doesn't say fentanyl per se. Fentanyl wasn't the only drug. It was just that a lethal dose was given.
Right. Right. When you walked in the courtroom and the verdict was delivered to her, what was going through your mind?
It was heavier than I thought it was going to be.
I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the video. So Nate said that when the verdict was given, I think he mentioned that this juror was probably the most emotional up there. I'm trying to remember what his words were exactly, but maybe he had more of like a facial expression, or maybe he seemed like very distressed or sad or something like that. Not quite sure, but yeah.
I again, by the time we came to our conclusion and we were comfortable with our decision, it was more stressful than I had imagined. So we went in there. They read the announcement. I looked over at both Kouri when she dropped her head, and I looked over at the Richins, because you have to feel for them also. And it seemed like there was a sense of relief to them. I mean, a closure of some sort, I think.
I recall looking at you, Tony, and I might be mistaken, but
your nephew died within 20 minutes of ingesting hidden fentanyl. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's so sad. Knox, I can't believe she did not think they wouldn't do an autopsy on a healthy, 39-year-old male. I think Bloodworth did a good job at pointing out that in the body cam footage, because I missed it. And it's weird because during that time, they didn't know what happened, or supposedly, right? She didn't know what happened to Eric. They were entertaining the brain aneurysm. They just literally had no idea, you know, maybe it was COVID or something. But the fact that your husband just suddenly passes away like that, you know, wouldn't you want to push for an autopsy? Wouldn't you want to know what happened to him? Find out the reason why he died?
It seemed as when the verdict was being read, you were a little bit emotional.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be. I mean, it's a heavy burden. Like I said, I didn't expect it to be. I mean, because we went through the trial, we saw the evidence, we came to a conclusion. So logically, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, that's the conclusion. So
Wasn't Eric married before? Someone said that he was, but I never verified it. You think the mom is in on it? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think something suspicious with the mom.
you go in, you read it, and you're done with it. But like I said, it caught me unexpectedly to be a little bit more pressure than I had anticipated. I mean, obviously don't change my mind about the decision. I think the decision was right, and everything that I've heard since the trial has only reinforced that.
I know that I've spoken with jurors in other cases that say the exact same thing as you. They don't expect that moment to be so heavy, even though they stand by their decision, but it still is a heavy thing. So you leave the courthouse. What did you do? You could finally talk about it. Did you call up your spouse? What did you do?
I don't live a long ways away, so I did go home. Initially, my spouse was furious because she'd already heard the verdict, and wondered why it had taken so long to get home.
Oh, she wanted to talk to you already about it.
Absolutely. So
did you take a detour?
So yeah, so she had done very, very good about not. She had followed the trial, but had while I was away, but did a very, very good job of not speaking to me at all about it. And I mean, I joked initially that it was because the banter that we had is that I didn't have to. The judge told me I didn't have to talk to her. In fact, he forbid me to talk to her. So
right.
No, but in all seriousness, no. So it was nice to finally get home and to talk about what I've been doing all day, because prior.
She even said, "Oh yeah, he didn't look good when I saw him earlier." Yeah, I feel like she was already trying to lay some protective grounds for her daughter, and then the mom's reaction on the phone was pretty crazy too. But I don't know. I don't know if mom is just chill like that. Mom might just be like, "Oh, he died? Okay. Oh, you want me to come over? Sure, I'll come by. Yeah, I'll stop by." I don't know. Mom was just like, she was just chill, dude. I don't know. Or maybe she knew and she just didn't really know how to just pretend that she was surprised. Whew.
To that, during the 3 weeks, I mean, you come home, but you talk about other things, but it's still top of mind. At least for me, it was. But again, we were really diligent about following those orders and following that process.
Yeah. So your wife is watching it every day, and I'm sure she's dying to talk about it. She knows. I wouldn't
say every day. Whenever she had time, she would catch up on it and see what's going on. But neither one of us are trial or
true crime
junkies or anything like that.
Yeah.
Don't think that will change, but yeah, it was. I mean, because
that's probably good. You should probably keep it that way. It gets really heavy sometimes. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, some really sad cases out there too.
It was because it affected us because I was called for duty. It was significant to her then.
Oh, you don't know who this is? This is Nate. Nate Eaton. So Nate Eaton is probably Lori Vallow's #1 enemy. So Nate, he covered the Lori Vallow case, same with Chad Daybell. So to hear him cover Kouri Richins, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's Nate Eaton with East Idaho News. He actually has his own YouTube channel. Right? No, I think he has his own YouTube channel. Yeah, I think it's like literally like Nate Eaton or something. You should definitely look him up.
Did you start to do a bunch of research on the case when you got home?
I wouldn't say a bunch. I've like I said, I watched your podcast with the other juror, which I thought was excellent. And I've seen some of the information that has been out, and
yeah, I think there's probably a Nate voodoo doll in Lori's cell. Okay. Lori fucking hates Nate. Oh man, Lori probably has his name written on her cell wall. Yeah, dude. Oh man, Lori tried to subpoena Nate to testify in her trial. Okay, that would have been hilarious. I think she just wanted to testify. Sorry, she wanted to subpoena him and cross-examine, or she wanted to subpoena him and question him because I think she wants to do it for personal reasons.
My wife's a little bit more of a junkie than I am about it, and so she was just wants the question. I mean, of course, it would be great to have some of the answers as to what really happened. I mean, for the first, I would say probably 3 days. I mean, it was just all we talked about. I mean, just about what happened in the case, what we were thinking, what went the thing, what was the possibilities, and then I was able to talk about, okay, what did to my wife I was able to tell, okay, what was deliberation like, and the kind of the behind the scenes. To her, I would talk about it, or I let her know, but she was the only one that I would release that personal information as to what other people thought.
Yeah. What do you think about your?
Oh, is that his YouTube channel? Meeting the Eatons? Meeting the Eatons and East Idaho News. All right. I think that's his YouTube channel. That actually rings a bell. She wanted him not be able to cover the trial if he was going to testify. I think she didn't want Nate in the courtroom too, right?
Or the judge?
I thought the judge was excellent. He was, I mean, that guy has the patience of Job. And I mean, it was only after the case that we found out that there was even more behind the scenes that went on.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, he seemed. I was surprised as to how he was able to maintain all the different thoughts in his head of the different decisions he's already made, and clearly he's working from multiple inputs as he would react to the objections, and some of them were sustained, some of them were overruled, but he would. Literally, you could see him working through the process in his own mind. So I was impressed by him. I thought he was fair. I thought he was very patient, and he kept the tone of the case very level. And it was nice that that they asked at the end of the trial. They asked if we would stick around and speak with.
It's really nice when we have a judge that we really like. Yeah, it makes the trial even better.
The judge. And all of us did.
Tony, has this changed your view of the legal system?
I wouldn't say it changed it. I appreciate the legal system. I understand the system that we have. I think it's still probably the best in the world. If I was able to speak with the prosecution, there was things that I would probably.
And you know what? I don't think murder cases are tried often in Summit County. I don't know. It's probably not it's probably not definitely not like LA, right? But yeah, I wonder how often do they get murder cases? Because I mean, Bloodworth did such a good job.
Encourage them to do, and we actually spoke to Judge Morazic about this after the trial, and he said, and he had mentioned that when he was a lawyer, that was more of the way that he pursued cases, was a storyline even through the beginning or the running through the witnesses, because it initially, again, it's like I said before, it was like drinking from a fire hose. Is there's so much information that they give you. Some of it's relevant, some of it's not relevant, and I guess it depends on the juror. So I see the reasoning for
per the Google AI, murder trials are rare in Summit County, Utah, with the county attorney's office typically handling very few, if any, on a yearly basis. Homicide cases are uncommon in this area, with reports indicating just 2 homicides occurred in the county between 2013 and 2023? Really? It's crazy. I mean, they did such a great job. I don't know if I believe that. Only 2? And really? Only 2? Yeah, I heard about that. Bloodworth is an ex-military lawyer, so he would know how to handle stuff. Like he was, oh gosh, he was just so on top of it. I really wish there was more cases that are live streamed. Hey, don't lick my feet. I wish there was more cases that are live stream so we can go back and watch them in action. I don't know. There's so many attorneys that I would have loved to watch their other cases, and judges, which is kind of cool. Is in the 5 years that we've covered true crime, we've only had one person that popped up twice, and that was Judge Penny. So we got to catch Judge Penny in the beginning of our court coverage, and then towards the end of her retiring. I think the last case that she had with Brendan Banfield, that was like one of the last murder cases that she was overseeing, and she's going to retirement. So I don't know. I would love to go back to, Florida, Judge Kranick's courtroom, or like I would love to see some more attorneys in action. Oh, do we know whatever happened to? Oh my gosh, I actually really liked her, even though at the end it was really batshit crazy. The prosecutor in the Rust movie trial. Oh my gosh, whatever happened to her? Actually, that she's a fire. She's wild, but man, was she so entertaining. Crazy.
For having done it, but it would have been more cohesive.
The law enforcement in this case that they never had a murder case. I'll watch Nestor. Oh, that's true. But I thought the one with I forgot the name of the name of the killer. What's his name again in the Kirk trial? Is that going to be? I kept hearing back and forth of whether or not they were going to live stream that. Did they ultimately end up choosing to live stream it? Because I guess we'll watch Nestor again. Is it Nestor and Lewis or just Nestor? Yeah, there are some judges and some prosecutors or even defense attorneys that I would love to see in action again.
Because going into it, I mean, in a way, I guess it makes the closing arguments more outstanding, because the closing arguments were excellent. It pieced everything together. It put it in a story format. It put it in chronological order, and it allows you to see some of the significance of it. Like you said before, the 6 minutes before Kouri started CPR, the consciousness of guilt that she had on a number of elements, whether it was when she talked to the 911 operators, or when she wrote about notes in her either in her journal or wrote notes down. She always started with like for the night of Eric's death, she started with the drinks. Okay, well that seems odd that significant of a thing that you'll always go back to that same point. And personally, I think it is a consciousness of guilt. So there was I mean, throughout the trial, I had wrote down in my notes and put stars next to things that I thought were significant, and indications like that, that was the story. That's where the story began, and because it repeated throughout the whole trial. With 911, to the cops, to her journals, or some journal. There's a journal that she wrote. There's some notes that they found that she had wrote after, and then they also found the notes in the walk the dog. Yeah. And all of those were kind of started at the same place, and so the significance of that is not lost.
Right. Yeah, I've spoken with other prosecutors that say it's important to have a theme so that the jurors can follow the theme throughout it. You mentioned the walk the dog letter. I forgot to ask you about that. What'd you think of it?
Oh shit, my bad. I had it muted. I was saying that what was I saying? I was saying that Nestor and Lewis have their own law firm, and then Attorney Ramos has his own law firm. I thought they were all in the same law firm together. I didn't know that they were separate law firms. I was just curious about them. So I kind of want to read their bio after this, when this video is over. Sorry.
It wasn't good for her case. I thought it was pretty damning. It clearly showed a consciousness of guilt. And again, the story that it was a fictional story that she was trying to write. Was it believable? Is that believable? I mean, I didn't think so. So it looked, if it walks like a duck, smells like, or walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So it looked like she was trying to direct her brother's testimony.
Oh, yes. Yes, the walk the dog letter. Mm-hmm.
Tony, I really appreciate you chatting with me. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think we covered everything. I mean, I hope this,
Oh, I don't think he asked about the GIFs, but I mean, we knew that it looks pretty bad.
you know, finds, I hope the Richins find closures. I mean, there's no winners in this whatsoever. I mean, on all sides, everybody lost. So, the best that you can do is go in, try to follow the instructions that you're given, do your best to listen to the case, and fairly come to a conclusion. I mean, that's what we're tasked with, and I think that's what we did. I commend all 11 jurors that did this with me. I empathize, and I think we'll probably end up getting together with all the jurors, hopefully, at some point, so that we can kind of talk about our experience. You feel for, to a degree, you feel for the jurors that were alternates. They, again, did the same amount of time as we did, and for me, it would have been, I don't know if I would have gotten the full closure by then not being able to deliberate. So hats off to them. I think they all did an outstanding job.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. You think the gifts were sent to her mom? I was like, I wonder if it was sent to family members. At first, I thought maybe the boyfriend was like in on it, and maybe she sent to her boyfriend. But yeah, I was like, oh, wonder if it's to the family members. We have so many questions.
Yeah, in other cases I've covered, I've spoken with the jurors and the alternates after the fact, and they, in some way, say it's like a member of the family is leaving, but they don't get to stick around for the end. But I know in other cases too, they've gotten together for barbecues. They have gotten together, like you said. Would you meet with the defense and prosecution if they asked you to? I know sometimes they'll want feedback from the jurors.
The prosecution for sure.
Not the defense.
I'm trying to think about that for the defense. I would be willing to talk to them in certain aspects. It kind of depends on. I mean, I'm not completely interested. There's some baggage or backstories on some of it. That's things that have happened after the trial. I mean, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't.
Wait, there's some backstories on. Wait, what happened after the trial?
Be interested in telling them, okay, what could we have done to instill reasonable doubt? Because from my position, the fact that she's guilty, I don't want to instill reasonable doubt.
Right.
I mean, so that's, again, it kind of depends on again, I believe a defense attorney, their job is to represent their client and give their client a fair representation. I don't believe that defense attorneys, their job is to get the person off. So there's kind of a difference thing. I'm not suggesting that that's what their position is. I'm just saying in general. I wanted Kouri to get a fair trial. I think she got a fair trial. I don't necessarily agree with all the choices that they made as for the prosecution, but I also don't know the other evidence that they have. Again, from my comment to you earlier, they kind of went with the hand they were dealt, and it wasn't a great hand. So they had some serious obstacles to overcome.
Right. All righty, Tony. Well, very good.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you. Thank you again for sharing your story with us. And like I say, it's always so fascinating to hear the other side of what happens, that those of us in the public can't see and can't hear.
I appreciate it. And I like I said, your podcast, I watched the one that you had before. I'm impressed as to how you conducted yourself and how it was presented. And so for that reason, I was here and willing to speak.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Nate. I linked the original video in the Discord if you guys want to watch it on your own. And yeah, I do want to read the bio of Nestor and Lewis. So they work together at the same law firm, and then Attorney Ramos has his own law firm. Let's see. His bio is actually pretty short, and I think it's not as interesting. Oh, hold on a second. Catherine Nestor. All right. Kathy Nestor is an experienced trial lawyer who's been trying cases in federal and state courts for over 30 years. Her 60-plus jury trials have included a wide variety of complex cases, including capital murder, complex fraud, sex offenses, drug and weapon cases in criminal courts, and wrongful death and civil rights violations, employment discrimination, and serious personal injury cases in civil courts. Several of her cases have received national and international press coverage, and her cases have been featured on court TV, in the New York Times, and on national and local television programs. One of her trials, homicide trials. Wait, what? She ain't talking about Kouri, is she? One of her homicide trials was the subject of a nationally published book by an award-winning author. No, that's not. Oh wait, sorry, it zoomed in. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, it zoomed in like that. Maybe that's a different client. Not Kouri, right? Kouri's not the award-winning author, right? Kathy's reputation for outstanding work in the courtroom has been recognized by her admission to several elite trial lawyer organizations, including the American College of Trial Lawyers, the American Board of Criminal Lawyers, and the International Society of Barristers. Kathy has entered appearances in thousands of cases across the country, including Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, and, California. She's received several awards from her peers, including the Mississippi Trial Lawyer of the Year and the Federal Bar Distinguished Service Award for the District of Utah. Kathy served as the head of federal defender offices in both Salt Lake City and San Diego for over 10 years. Kathy was asked by the Chief Justice in the United States Supreme Court to serve on the Advisory Committee on the Federal Rules of Evidence. She also served on the National Steering Committee for the Clemency Project during the Obama administration, which managed over 4,000 lawyers in an effort to assist over 36,000 applicants with the presidential clemency applications. Kathy has been married to her junior high school sweetheart, all for 35 years, and is a proud mom of 2 grown daughters and a son-in-law who all entered careers, in the legal field. In her spare time, Kathy enjoys singing in her church choir, watching good movies, solving puzzles, and traveling to anywhere near water. Miss Lewis. All right, let's learn about Miss Lewis. Miss Lewis graduated from the University of Utah College of Law in 1991. Where she was a William H. Leary Scholar and a member and editor of the Utah Law Review. Upon graduation, she moved to Denver, Colorado. Ooh, Denver, Colorado. It's a beautiful place. Where she clerked for the Honorable Robert H. McWilliams of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. While clerking for the Judge McWilliams, she worked on both federal cases and criminal cases of all varieties. It was during this clerkship that she developed her love of criminal law. 1992, she returns back to Utah, worked as an associate for a private law firm where she handled complex criminal cases and a variety of civil matters, including personal injury, domestic, and contract law. Wendy took numerous state and federal cases to trial while in private practice, including homicide, and fraud cases, and achieved a number of acquittals for her clients. Of particular note were the cases of State v. Utah versus Valentino Coloro, in which Mr. Coloro was found not guilty of first-degree murder, and State of Utah v. John Blanchard, in which Mr. Blanchard was spared a DP and sentenced to life in prison with a possibility of parole. Wendy also argued matters before the Utah Court of Appeals, the Utah Supreme Court, and the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Oh my God, these bios are so long. 1997, Wendy returned to clerking and spent the following 3.5 years as a law clerk to the Honorable Dale A. Kimball, federal district judge for the District of Utah. She again worked on cases in the areas of the law and became familiar with the inner workings of the federal bench in Utah. In January 2001, Wendy became an assistant federal public defender for the District of Utah, where she spent the next 21 years representing indigent defendants in federal court. During this time, she developed a focus on federal sex offenses, and she is well known for obtaining an extremely favorable outcomes for her clients. 2 more paragraphs. Wendy also developed a reputation for outstanding representation of offenders under age 25 and has successfully argued for probation for serious felonies based on the brain development of young offenders. She also worked in many high-profile and complex cases in the United States v. Brian David Mitchell. Wendy served as a rep for the Utah Federal Public Defender's Office in the District Utah's Tribal Reentry Court, where she traveled to tribal lands and worked with the members of the tribal nations on successfully re-entering society following federal convictions. Over the past 9 years, Wendy served as a senior level supervisor in the FPD office and was assigned responsibility for case assignment, hiring, and diversity recruitment efforts. Wendy is active in the Federal Bar Association. My mouth is drying up. Do I have any more water? It's a lot of rain. She's active in the Federal Bar Association, the Utah Women Lawyers Association, and the Utah Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. She also served as a mentor to lawyers and has worked as a volunteer in educational institutions. In 2022, Wendy joined her good friend, and former colleague Kathy Nestor to start Nestor Lewis. Wendy's licensed to practice in Utah federal and state courts and the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Wendy is a 5th generation Utahn. Is that how you pronounce that? Utahn, and is connected statewide. All right, so they have a law firm together. Attorney Ramos's bio is really short, and It's just like, oh, he does all this stuff. So very short bio for him. But I will read the first one. Alex Ramos is a gritty and zealous advocate. That's Mr. Ramos. Alrighty. I actually want to know, I would love to read more about Mr. Bloodworth sometime in the future. Alrighty, guys. Well, that is it for today. So, again, I linked the video for the interview with Nate Eaton in the Discord if you guys want to watch it. He also interviewed with not witness juror number 3. So if you guys haven't seen that, definitely check it out. It's quite insightful to hear from people that, you know, unlike us, didn't follow the case from the very beginning. Probably didn't get to hear a lot of the stuff in the pretrial stuff, and I don't know if they even, you know, have heard of it after the fact, you know, because there's a lot of wild stuff that was going on with Kouri Richins. But it's nice to hear from someone who sat there as long as we did to watch the trial from beginning to the end, and then hear their thoughts about, you know, what landed, what didn't land, thoughts about the prosecution, the defense, evidence, and witness, and all that stuff. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching with me and spending your Saturday with me. I know you guys probably got better things to do, or maybe you had me in the background, which I do appreciate. But guys, have a wonderful weekend. Take care. I do want to still cover the, I want to watch the rest of the Afroman trial. We watched day 1. It's in the live stream. But there's actually another testimony that I do want to listen to. And apparently, it's about a woman who was almost murdered by her husband. She testified on the stand. And, you know, a lot of the cases we cover, it's usually the victim is no longer with us today. So the victim in this case, she's very alive and very well. And I think, I don't know if her and her husband were on vacation, but apparently they were hiking and he tried to push her off. So I kind of want to listen to that at some point. I think next week, that'll probably be what we're going to be covering. We'll watch the Afroman trial. And then I do want to watch her testimony about her husband pushing her off the cliff or something like that. And then also we did upload the video with the Justin Timberlake react. If you guys haven't seen the body cam footage of Justin Timberlake getting pulled over and then doing all those the sobriety tests, yeah, check it out. We uploaded it yesterday. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you guys have a wonderful, lovely weekend. You guys take care, and I will see you guys next week. All right. We'll watch the rest of the Afroman trial, and so far it is pretty fucking unhinged. It is it's pretty wild. So you guys have a good weekend. Take care, and I will see you guys later. Bye.